So Miss Marvel officially ended this week, and I got to watch it. And I did make a review. I combined my review for Thor: Love and Thunder and this. So if you want, you can go ahead and go check out those reviews. And I also did a tier ranking where I did that. But today, I am going to rank all 6 Miss Marvel episodes. Now, something you need to know is I did not like this show. I gave this a negative score. To me, it was just kind of dull, and it kind of ruined everything special about the character from the comics until the final episode. But we'll talk more in specifics. But, the show was just increasingly disappointing, and, we'll just talk more about specifics. But before I do that, please take a moment to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What did you think of Miss Marvel? I want to know all that and more, and what is your episode ranking? And with that said, let's get into this with number 6. In last place is episode 5. Now, this episode was absolutely terrible. I was really having my fingers crossed that they would do a kind of Moon Knight turnaround with episodes 5 and 6 where I wasn't liking the show, and then I started to really like the show. But then, that is not what happened at all. In episode 5, it takes a whole 75% of the episode being back in the past, exploring this mystery that I didn't care about, and that I don't really think anyone would have cared about, this mystery about her past. It was just dumb. And we spent the entire episode back there, and then and then at the ending, it's just so bad. It's basically just the character of the bad guys going, oh, so we can go home, and then dying while Miss Marvel was like, no, and then they just die. And yeah, that's the ending of the episode. It's just so dumb. It doesn't set up a finale at all. It kills off the villains. It's just dumb. And it's one episode where it doesn't even feel like anyone's trying. It feels like the screenwriters, the director, the CGI artists, the actors, none of them were trying. And this episode was just bad. And it's the one episode that made me clock out of the show. And so, yeah, it's definitely in last place. And then we got episode 4. Now, this is the episode that, after episode 3, when it was starting to wane my anticipation for the show, and this one was a very disappointing episode for me, because, this is the episode that begins it off by trying to establish this mystery in another state, and the show is really at its best when they're just in Jersey City. I realize that when they're in this outer state, when they're in this other country, it's just not good. It doesn't have its best qualities of the show at all, and this episode really hinders that. Also, they introduce a plotline about the bad guys trying to destroy the entire planet, and instead of being like Miss Marvel, who protects Jersey City, they made it into her trying to save the entire planet, and then again, they just erased it in episode 5. Like, seriously, this show was terribly written. This episode was terribly written. See, these last 2 episodes that I just talked about were kind of like random. Out of the entire scheme of the show, it feels like a whole nother season than what this actual season was. And that's not a good thing. So, yeah, these 2 episodes were bad. They were really bad. Then we got episode 3, and by all of these, this was the best one. The action fight scene in the end was pretty cool. But the big problem with this one is that this is when the writing really starts to faint out. It's basically, Miss Marvel just got her powers. She didn't do anything with them. Like, not a single thing with them. And then now she's like, oh, I just want to use my powers for good, and I think I'm ruining the city instead of doing good. Like, what? You didn't do anything. It makes no sense. Like, at all. This is really the episode where the writing starts to pan out. But the ending fight scene was pretty cool, and I didn't hate this episode as much as I hated the rest of the show. So, of course, there is some cool things in this episode. It's just the writing here. It's dumb. It's dumb. Like, seriously, this is the episode that I realized that this show was just not going to have good writing, and it would take us off in weird places, and it would just make no sense, and it really shows here. This is the episode where the show starts to pan out, and, at some moments, this episode isn't bad, but again, the writing, man, the writing. In third place is episode 1, and this is by far one of the most charming episodes. I did have a couple things that was holding it back. Number one, when she got the powers, she didn't feel like she was putting any weight on getting powers. It was like, oh, cool, I got powers now. And then Bruno's like, oh, cool, you got powers now. And that was it. No weight on the powers at all. And then I also didn't feel like Iman Viviani, I know I keep mispronouncing her name, but she didn't really feel like Miss Marvel in this episode, but this episode was charming. It was fun. There was some cool family dynamic, especially with when the father turns into the Hulk and whatnot. That is some cool family dynamic, and I really enjoyed that about the episode. I also really enjoyed Bruno. I really just enjoyed the dynamic that everyone had and how charming and fun the show was, the way that it was shot, the way that the scenes were on the screen. I really just thought that was fun and charming, and that's what this episode was, fun and charming. Now, it's the weakest out of the 3 fun and charming episodes because of those 2 problems, and they didn't put the weight on powers, and I wasn't dying to see the next one. But overall, this episode was just charming, and it really got me excited for the rest of the show. But then you know what I thought of the rest of the show. Our runner-up is episode 2. Now, episode 2 was fun and charming, and it continues the fun and charming thing. Here is the episode where I really thought that Iman Viviani really was Miss Marvel. She was fun. She was charming. The training montage was a lot of fun, and I did make a mistake. I got in an argument with one of my friends telling them that Miss Marvel was awesome and that they were wrong when they say that the show sucked. And then the next episode, the show really dipped. But overall, this episode was just a lot of fun. Seeing her train, see all that stuff, it puts a little weight on her powers. It kind of fixed some problems I had with the first episode, and it did get me excited for the rest of the season. The actors are really talented. There's some really funny moments, and you know, as a whole, this episode was just charming, and I really thought I would really like this show coming up into it. But I mean, then again, the show sucked. Alrighty now, my number 1 is episode 6. That's right, episode 6 is a nice return to form for the Miss Marvel show. It takes her back into Jersey City, which is where the show was really powerful. From then on, that's when the show is charming, and then when she's not there, it just wasn't charming. But it takes her back there. It even gives her some of her real powers, like you see on the screen. That's some of her real powers from the comics. And, you know, it's also got the little tease that she's a mutant. This episode is just a whole lot of fun. There's some nice action sequences. I really liked how, what's his name? Not Bruno, but, Kamran. Yeah, Kamran. I really liked how Kamran changed at the end. I just really thought this was a charming little episode, and it was a nice way to finish off the Miss Marvel series. So that was my number 1. I want to know what you thought of the show down below. Please take a moment to subscribe, to the like button, hit the bell, and again, comment down below, what did you think of this show? I want to know all that and more. And with that said, make sure to subscribe to join the Nerd Army. Peace out.